Good evening, and welcome to Community Social Justice Atlanta. I am your host for this evening, Eva McMillan, and I am so glad that you tuned in. Please go ahead and invite someone else to tune in, tag someone. Go ahead and do this, and let everyone know that we are on. If you've been following Community Social Justice Atlanta since its inception back in 2020, you know that we are all about bringing information to the community. Whatever is going on within our community that affects our community, we want to make sure that you are informed. So we have done many topics. We've talked about voter suppression. We've talked about domestic violence. We talked about the COVID vaccine. We talked about were the schools ready. We have talked about mental health. We've talked about financial wealth. And so tonight we're going to be continuing on in the vein of our political information. We are targeting or trying to let you know that your voice matters and your vote matters. So go ahead, let someone know that we're on. I know that we haven't been on live in quite some time. We took a break, but we've been doing things in the community. We have become a partner with CC 365 Ministries. And so we've been in the communities, making sure that the information is gotten out in the community. Let me encourage you to go ahead, continue to watch us, continue to send us questions if you have questions. Send us a topic that you would like to hear us discuss. What we would do, we'll take into consideration, we'll vet the people that are there, that are experts in that field, and then we will bring you the information. So again, Community Social Justice Atlanta, hashtag Community Social Justice Atlanta. We are on Facebook. We are also on YouTube, and we are on Twitter. So follow us, connect with us, send us your request, or send us a shout out. Just let us know that you have been watching us. We appreciate it, and we hope that you enjoy this segment tonight. As I said, your voice matters, and your vote matters. At this time, we're going to bring in a very special guest who is not a stranger to Community Social Justice Atlanta. He is the one and only Commissioner Larry Johnson. Good evening, Commissioner. How are you?
Good evening. The best day of my life. Good to see you.
Good to see you
Glad
too.
to see you still on the case.
Oh yes, oh yes. Our vote matters. We got to get the information out there.
Oh, yes.
For those that maybe this is their first time tuning in and they're not familiar with your face, kind of give us your bio in the elevator version of your bio.
All right. Yes, I'm a county commissioner. I've been there 20 years. I'm also the immediate past president for the National Association of Counties, which represent over 3,000 counties in the nation. So I represented 300 million Americans. I also chair the Planning, Economic, and Community Services Committee, which oversees housing, health, economic development in DeKalb. And my district goes from Camler Park all the way to Conley, Georgia.
Wow.
And so I have 150,000 people in my district. So it's bigger than Rockdale and Newton County put together. Very diverse, very robust, just dynamic people. And I got the House of Hope in my district.
Well, we are certainly glad that you are here tonight, and we're going to get started with you. I have a couple of questions. I did see that you were down at the Capitol talking about affordable housing.
Yes.
How did that go?
Oh, it went pretty good. They're looking at different type of standards, and I think it's very key that residents and people paying attention that there are a lot of legislation going on. One of it is to take away local control from the counties. Any type of design standards. They're looking at trying to do rent to own subdivisions now, which can change the dynamics of your area. And so you really have to pay attention at the state and get engaged, because bills can get passed that we don't have control over. They take the power away. It can happen. But I was trying to share with them workforce housing initiative that I'm championing right now, which is working with, how do we make sure we got houses for the rich and housing for the poor, but we have very little housing in the middle. And most housing now average about $250,000 to $300,000. But what do we have for teachers, firefighters, uh, police officers, that missing middle? And what can we do? And that's what my legislation is trying to do, to help provide incentives for developers to do more for that missing middle. And we're also looking at people who want to age in place. You may have a grandmother or mother who don't want to live in that big house anymore, but they want to stay in the same neighborhood. What can we do to look at square footage? So they may want to live in a cottage. They want to maybe live in a one studio, but they might still want the neighborhood feel, but not have that big house and have stairs and everything. So you have to look at those type of standards in order to make it more affordable for the people who live in that community.
Wow, that's excellent. We saw the need grow even more during the pandemic when people were displaced, and so that is very needed in our
essential workers,
our state.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now that's why I was there with the chairman of Oconee County. And you know about Oconee County, they're looking at affordable housing in Cherokee County. So this issue is a statewide issue, but everybody is talking about affordable housing, because you got to have people who serve you every day in your community to be able to afford to live in that community.
Yeah. Now, did the 2020 census that came out, did that influence that in any kind of way, with directing more funds towards that?
It could give you more funds, because we did get a better count than we did before. And that money will come down from the federal government, and it comes through HUD, of course, and then it come through the community development block grants to help you with first-time home buyer programs. And so now, as it relates to you, if your numbers went up, there's more dollars that you will receive, and it helps you deal with your county. That's why I told people it's very important, like you did on this show, to do the census. And now you see over the next 10 years, we'll get that increased money. But if you didn't count your folks right, and you got more people moving in than you got money for, guess what happens? You're going to have to dip into your general fund budget. And if you don't have the money, guess where it comes from? You got to raise the taxes.
Yeah. And I think that when we look at what is happening with the health situation, losing, is it WellStar?
The Atlanta Medical Center.
That is going to have a major impact as well. And what can we as an individual citizen, what can we do to make sure that we get what we need within our counties and within our local cities?
Yes. What we were able to do is that we used some of our American Rescue funds that we received, that President Biden gave us, and invested it back into the Hillendale location in South DeKalb, because between 25 and 30% of the patients at Atlanta Medical Center are from DeKalb. And so now they moved to diversion starting October 4th. That means they're now not taking any more emergency patients. So where are they going? You only have one level 1 trauma center, which is Grady. So those people are now coming back into these hospitals. And now our CEO championed to give them an influx, to give Grady $8 million to help with the nursing shortage. And $12 million will go towards Hillendale to upgrade their emergency room system and add more beds. And we just did that on Tuesday, because now you're dealing with a very emergency situation around healthcare, because you saw it during COVID.
Yes.
COVID was around. Nobody can get elective surgeries anymore.
Right. Correct.
Because you didn't have space. But now you're dealing with a hospital that's closed, and you only have one level 1 trauma center. Guess what? You also have a staff of doctors, nurses, MAs, medical assistants are already overwhelmed. They're already stressed out. Now you add more to it. So with our $20 million infusion to build up the Hillendale in South DeKalb, it allows us to help relieve some of that pressure that was going to happen, because the folks may not have anywhere to go. Now we can rev it up.
Well, thank you for championing that on our behalf. I'm a DeKalb
Yeah, it
um,
came through my
County
committee.
citizen.
Came through
Yeah,
my committee, and we approved it.
yeah. We have another guest that I want to bring on. Now, he is new to Community Social Justice Atlanta. Again, this is Community Social Justice Atlanta. Go ahead and invite someone to tune in with us. But at this time, we're going to bring in Commissioner Demont Davis.
All right, come on.
Good evening.
Well, good evening. Good evening. And, I'm a little late. I was actually dealing with a healthcare issue
Yeah,
over at one of my wife's office. We had an x-ray machine that had gone out with the software, and we were trying to get that thing back up. So I apologize, but we've got to, with what Commissioner Johnson was saying, we've got to begin to tool and retool some of these smaller facilities in
yeah,
order that they can accommodate
yeah.
our citizens of this county, because it's not just, a lot of these folks are not just going to go to the emergency room to get checked, but they're going to go to a lot of your urgent cares as well as your small providers, local providers around town.
Now, Commissioner Davis, let the people know which district you represent.
I am in Clayton County, and as folks know, if you land on runway 2 through 5, you are in Clayton County. You're in Clayton County, so that's where we are. My district, I'm District 4, which covers the more southeastern part of Riverdale down through Jonesboro, and then a portion of Morrow by the South Lake Mall area. So
Okay.
everything kind of west of I-75 all the way down to Lovejoy.
Hmm.
So it's a unique area, and we cover Lake Spivey as well.
Okay. Well, again, we want to thank you for joining us and thank you for being willing to participate in this conversation. Your voice matters, your vote matters. And we know that this election that is coming up, it is putting Georgia back in the forefront of everyone's mind within the United States and outside of the United States. So let's talk about this up and coming election. So I was looking at I was looking at the committee on January 6th, and just kind of blew my mind that how we got here,
Mhm.
uh, and we got here through a narrative about an election.
Correct.
And so here we are in 2022, and that same narrative is being pushed. Talk about the importance of this election if we are going to get steered back into the right direction. I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Johnson.
This is a very crucial election. If you look at the infrastructure bill that was passed by Biden, our president, our Congress and Senate, you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, that happened because the Democrats really took the bat to make sure we provide $1.3 trillion for infrastructure. And with the Inflation Reduction Act, more people now will be able to get health care through Obamacare and make those. And then insulin was capped at $35 for the medicine prescription. Those things impact everyday lives and making things happen. And so the Senate and the Congress and the governor's race are very crucial to what we're trying to do. When we talk about just trying to move Georgia forward, Medicaid expansion, all of those things are on the line today that impacts everyday citizens. And I tell people, you say, why? It don't make sense for me to vote. Well, if you don't vote or not, everything around you is being impacted by it.
Right.
So you might as well exercise your right to vote, because if you don't do it, the world is moving forward without you. So have a say so in who you want to see elected to make those things happen. Now, the last thing I say is you need to vote early.
Yes.
Don't wait. You need to vote starting October 17th. Go
Right.
out there until the end is on the 31st. But get in there and vote. If you don't want to go during the week, you got 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays. You need to vote early so you'll vote. If some get challenged or things happen, you now have time before November 8th to get things cured, because you don't want no shenanigans.
Right.
CAB has done it. We've had about 16 early voting sites. We did more than we've ever done before to make sure people have an opportunity. And then I put forward a bill to our state reps and senators to allow you to vote at any precinct in your county. You don't have to run back to your precinct to vote. You need to be able to, when you get to your county, you should vote with, like you do for early voting now. You can vote at any early voting site, whether your precinct is AYZ, you can go vote. We need to do that for every election, let you be able to vote at any precinct. So that's something that we need to do, but vote early.
Commissioner Davis, what are you doing in Clayton County to ensure that the voters are ready?
Well, we're getting out. Our Democratic Party and our Women Federation of Democratic Women, they are getting out in a heavy campaign to get these folks out to vote. One of the things I've done personally is, and I'm telling everybody, and I've done it myself, a lot of us have children in college that are not in the city and not in the state. We need to get them to put forth an absentee ballot so that they can collect that ballot and get it mailed in due time. So we've got to begin to push forward. This is an important election, as all elections are. But as Commissioner Johnson stated, if you don't participate, you still got to eat. You still got to pay your energy bill. You still got to buy gas for your car, and you still got to buy food. Now, if you want to have a say so, then you need to vote. Vote for somebody that is going to help your household. We've got healthcare as a major issue. Our governor's race says one opponent says what? Hey, I'm not for Medicare. Let's keep it out. The other opponent says what? We need to bring it in. So that right there is going to give us more funding to service more individuals. So we've got to begin to look at it as that as well. In the state of Georgia, we have over $6 billion surplus. We need to begin to say, what is a healthy surplus and when should we begin to deliver back to the citizens of Georgia? How do we begin to create economic prosperity, but also economic growth within the state of Georgia, within DeKalb, within Fulton, within Clayton? We've got to begin to look at that. Our population in Georgia is becoming progressively Black and brown. And we've got to begin to utilize and speak up for what not we want, but what we need. And we need to be treated fairly in all that we do. We need fair access to healthcare. We need fair access to education. And when I say fair, I'm not talking about letting us in. I'm talking about just a payment schedule. We've got to begin to promote, get folks in that are going to promote not just the high-level careers in education, but also those hands-on skills, our plumbing, our electrician, our manufacturing, our agriculture and farming. These are the things that we have to promote, and I think we have a candidate, and I'm just going to say it, in Stacey Abrams, that understands that this is not a white man's America anymore. This is not a white man's Georgia anymore. This is a folk of color Georgia. There's a plethora of colors in Georgia, and we've got to begin to respect all in what we're doing. For me in Clayton County, some of the things I want to do in pushing forward, begin to think like us, is I want to, and we have to begin to aggressively begin to pursue, I want to see economic growth here as far as minority in contracts. But also, I want to see economic growth as far as white men that are local here in Clayton County to help grow new businesses that they want as well. So it's not just about, it's both. But we've got to stop going out to Massachusetts, to California, to Oregon, to bringing somebody to do business in our county. So I think we've got to put people in place that are going to think like us and help us move forward.
I read something, and you guys are Democrats, and I'm going to read this, and you tell me what your thoughts are. And this was taken by, this is a guy that did the Gallup poll, and he said Republicans usually do a better job of getting their voters back to the polls in the midterms than Democrats.
Well, if you look at this last election, remember now, 2018, we had more people go vote in the runoff. That's how Arsaw from Warnock won than in the regular election. So that myth has been shattered. I mean, if you look at the folks who are now voting, with the advanced technology and with the text to vote, the emails, that myth has been shattered. And if you look at the last election, I don't know about Clayton County, but in ours, we had a record turnout in the May election, and that just blew people's mind. And then but so you seeing a whole different trend than you used to do, and where the Democrats have stepped up. It's not the same old party before. It's very sophisticated. It's technology based. It energizes the young people as well as the seniors. But you've seen a change of now the midterm elections, and I know Commissioner Davis can tell you they're like the general elections now.
Yes.
For us, and we both run in we both run in midterm elections.
Correct. You know, and he's right. Empirical data does not lie. I'm hoping that what we experienced last cycle was not a faux pas. I want it to begin to continue. But what we have to remember too is you have two commissioners on here who have two of the densest counties in the state of Georgia.
Right.
DeKalb County is the densest county in Georgia. Clayton County is the third densest county in Georgia. So you're looking at a lot of folks that can turn out. And just our two counties alone can turn an election.
Yeah.
And we want to turn it positive to assist all. When I look at it, when I look at these candidates, and I want everybody else to look at it too, before I was elected, I would go vote. I had to look at my family. What's going to assist my family and my household? That's the way I needed to vote, because I had to take care of this house and this family. Now, the residents of Clayton County are my family. And I've got to look at what is best suited to help my family of Clayton County.
That's right.
And to help all. And that's the way I begin to look at it. I try to stay away from black and white, and I try to stay away from that Republican Democrat. My thing is, let me find the person that is going to do the best for my family of Clayton County. And I say this as well. One thing I'm very proud of, and you go find me a state that has done it, regardless of what you think, and I don't want to say anything negative. Do you realize that we have two black men running for Senate in the state of Georgia? I'm not asking what you think about. I'm just saying, look at the picture here. We've got two black men running for Senate in the state of Georgia, where there's been only a handful of blacks that have been in the Senate, U.S. Senate ever. I think we have a clear-cut decision here, but I want to look at that bright side on that.
Yeah, well, we're going to look at the positive that we have two black men. We're not going to look at how one of them got there, but we're going to stay on the positive.
There we go.
I have a comment or a question to pose to you, because I was looking and I saw where the Latino population now is growing in Georgia. And I read where after the 2020 census that now the Latino population, especially within DeKalb County, I think it was in DeKalb County, represent about 8.44% of voters or the population.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything to court the Latino vote?
Well, what I've done is I've sponsored legislation called Voting Opportunity Translation Equity Act. But we're now going to make permanent the top 5 languages that you'll be able to see on the ballot, language-wise. If your English is your second language, it's your second language. And so, man, that working with our Asian Pacific Islanders, working with our Latino population. I started it before I did this act when I was over the elections. Man, we've been doing it for the last 2 years in DeKalb. It really has helped. I mean, I had people crying who was telling me they were so happy to see the ballot in a different language besides English.
Yeah.
And so now I'm about to make it permanent that we as the election board, work on putting the different languages. And so that's going to really do a lot around just translation, inclusion, and making sure that those other languages, and we're still, of course, 90-some% English speaking, but our Latino population is really increasing. I think it went from like 2% to like 6%. And so our Asian population has risen, but it is still an opportunity as a county that speaks 140 languages like DeKalb to be able to put this ballot in different languages. It's going to be, it's going to have an impact. So that's how we're working to include and to making sure that we can reach out. And we've expanded our voter registration election office. We've hired, I think we're going to add about $4 or $5 million to it, because we got to stop thinking that elections are just 2 and 4 years. Now these are year round now. Yeah. You gotta do education all year, every year. In the old days, Commissioner Davis, we just wait for every 2 and 4 years, and then you rev up before we were here before you had early voting. We've been in office that long. And so now you got early voting, you got absentee voting, you got drop boxes. Yeah, so you got all of these different facets. So you really have to educate all year round. So your voter registration office has to be an office where you have outreach workers, education, communication specialists. You're really a full-fledged department, and that's what we've done in DeKalb.
Good. Yeah.
What about Clayton County?
What we're doing in Clayton County, we have a high population of Hispanic as well as Vietnamese speaking folk. And what we're doing is, my big thing is to begin to recognize and respect them. Respect them as people, respect their culture, respect their traditions. As we know, this month was Hispanic Heritage Month. So we really try to get out to see them, to visit them. We have a councilman in Forest Park, Hector Gutierrez, who makes a concerted effort to make sure his people are recognized and put forth festivals. And I'm on board with anything he does. I think the first part of getting folks involved is you have to gain trust with everybody. When we begin to gain trust, we can make progress. And we can make progress together because we respect each other and respect each other's culture. I know folks love soul food, but folks love Mexican food just as well. And so we begin to dine with the food. We begin to dine with the music. We begin to dine with different dresses. So I think that's the first part of it. We do have our ballots, our election ballots in those languages to begin to accommodate. The other part is we've got to begin to get into the communities where they live and say, look, how can we get you all registered to vote? And how does it affect you? And let them understand how it affects them. How they think it doesn't affect them. You know, they think everybody's against. Many of them think that we are against them, we being the government. Even though we are Black, we are the government, which means we are against them. So we've got to begin to look at it from a lot of different aspects and a lot of different perspectives. Begin to get them involved as well as in contracts and in government work. So we've got a lot of work to do. And I always say, what we must do for them is not what was done to us.
I worked for a nonprofit for 15 years, and one of the things that when the influx of immigrants were coming over, that our job was to make sure that we countered the negativity where there was a segment that was actually pitting African Americans against Latinos. And that was the whole focus, is to basically drive a wedge between them, you know. And so we're still seeing some of that even today, that, you know, trying to make sure that we don't connect together when we have more in common than what people believe.
Yeah, the stuff that happened in Los Angeles. Right away, you had to nip that in the bud.
Yes.
That was. I listened to the tape. I said, "Oh my goodness." We got to get rid of the Blacks, and I said, "Boy, when them folks came down to those city council meetings, and they shut that thing down, you know." And so that was something we got to start, like Commissioner Davis is talking about. It's all about unity, working together, respecting people's differences. Helping us to understand where we are as it relates to just connecting, because they do see us. If you're the majority in the government, you're the government.
Yeah.
So you got to
Yeah.
build bridges. You got to be able to connect the dots. You got to reach out, like Commissioner Davis is doing, with those leaders in that community, and seek first to understand before being understood. And
Yeah.
then that's how you build bridges. You find out we all want the same things.
I want the same thing. So we're gonna build a bridge right here, and
Right.
next we're gonna bring on the one and only from the House of Representatives, the Honorable
Man,
Representative
man,
Billy
Wow.
Mitchell.
Wow. Yes.
looking like the president.
I'm
Hey,
telling you.
Mr. President.
First of all, let me just say, I wish I could have been on earlier. My plane was to get in at 2 p.m. today, and believe it or not, I'm just getting off the tram. I'm in the the gates here, so if you hear some noise, that's where I am. But I wanted to get on as soon as possible. But I tell you, Minister McMillan, you really don't need me. As I look around here, the Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Davis, two stellar public servants. And if the truth be told, whenever I make a decision, I say to myself, I wonder what Commissioner Davis or Johnson would do. And that is the path that I would follow. Glad to be with you. I just wish my grandmother could see me amongst you all. She would have thought that I grew up and became something.
Yeah.
And that's why we're gonna vote. We're gonna vote for you for president.
That's right.
There we go.
That's right. We're gonna nominate you and vote for you.
That's
So I am so glad that you were able to join on, because one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was SB 202.
Mm,
And so I was told that I had to wait till you got here
that's
to
right.
talk about that.
Right.
So tell us the changes that have taken place because of that with this voting cycle.
Well, I will tell you, draconian legislation. And it all came about, to give you a historical perspective. You know, Georgia came out in record numbers their last election cycle. In fact, during the runoff election where we elected John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock to the U.S. Senate, which literally changed the world. I mean, it literally changed policy worldwide, because Democrats then took over the U.S. Senate. Uh, the numbers, people came out more in the runoff election than they did in the general election, which is just unheard of. Normally, we see almost a 50% drop off, but they came out in record numbers. And as a result, the majority party that was in control said, we have to do something. And so they eliminated drop boxes. They eliminated some weekend voting. They made it more difficult to receive absentee ballots and send them in. Even this notion of not being able to give out water or on lines. And let me just tell you how draconian that is. The actual law says that you cannot give anything of value to anyone else if you're within 150 feet of the polling. I asked in the committee meeting, what if you are your husband, your wife, and your spouse comes to the election with you, and you say, here, darling, take a piece of chewing gum. By statute, by law, that would be illegal, which means you'd be subject to a year in jail if you did that. Now, you and I both know, all of us here who are viewing this know what's going to happen. In some communities, they're going to enforce that. In other communities, they will not. And I'm afraid that the communities that they're going to enforce that will be in communities that traditionally we serve. But let me just say this to you. Out of all those factors, the most terrible provision in SB 202 is this notion of unlimited challenges to voters,
Yes.
meaning a person could say, I don't believe Billy Mitchell is legally able to vote here. What has to happen then is my vote will maybe a provisional vote, and our people that we represent are least likely to come back and cure those provisional ballots. And it used to be in the law that you couldn't give unlimited challenges, and you had to have some reason, some justification for doing so. That was stripped out of the law. Now they literally can come and challenge hundreds of voters, and I suspect that's what's going to happen. The courts just issued a rule that you can't do them wholesale. You have to go and then file something with the Secretary of State's office. But that is the provision that is most scary to me.
So what can we do if that happens? What are our counter to that? What can we do?
The counter to this, we have a voter protection hotline, which has many lawyers at the disposal. No matter when you call, what part of the state you call, there's a voter protection hotline that I'm going to issue that number where they should call immediately. I suspect if you were to call Commissioner Davis or Commissioner Johnson or myself, we can get directly to the election supervisors in our county. But the best practice would be for the average everyday person is to call the voter protection hotline, which they have just a battery of attorneys ready to advocate on your behalf should this happen. And
what about this? What about this? The portion now where there are poll watchers.
Absolutely, they're poll watchers. But one of the things I must say that the Democratic Party of Georgia is doing a very good job, and they're soliciting even more volunteers. They're going to have watchers at every polling place to counteract any nonsense that may be tried. So we're certainly going to have polling watchers, particularly in areas where this may be a problem.
So what is the function of the watcher, and what are their limitations?
The watchers cannot get involved in how you vote or that kind of, but they can watch for illegality. They can watch. They can see if a polling supervisor renders a decision that they feel is not proper. Then they too have the ability to get our lawyers in right away. What we're trying to do is make certain that those who go to vote aren't frustrated by receiving improper information and then they just go home. Another provision that was changed was that it used to be if you showed up at the wrong polling place, they allowed you to vote provisionally, and at the end of the day, whatever you are able to vote from that particular precinct would count. So, for instance, if I voted in the wrong precinct, I might not be able to vote for state representative. But if I voted for governor or U.S. senator, that vote would count. Now, if you show up to the polling location before 5 p.m., they won't even allow you to vote. They will say you cannot vote here. And the worst part about it is there's some misunderstanding as the law goes. They won't even tell you what is your proper voting precinct. So that's one of the things that our poll watchers will be able to do. They'll be able to say that here's where your proper polling location is and send you there. I tell you, it's going to be one very interesting election cycle. It'd be interesting to see how we get through this.
Vote early.
And Commissioner Johnson is absolutely right. What we're telling our folks to do is to vote early, because if you wait till the last day to vote, you will be impacted by some of this, what I call trickery. But if you vote early, you won't have to worry about it.
That's what we want.
So that's the key, is to vote early.
Vote early.
That's it.
Vote early.
Yeah. We in Clayton County are trying to put together different types of groups to go out to vote early, starting next week. I'm trying to pull together an effort by no later than Wednesday to get Black men to the polls.
Good for you.
Working on an effort to begin to do that. I mean, what we have to call, as Representative Mitchell, what it is. And this is a 2020 new poll tax.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. This is a 2020 new poll tax. Yeah. They've got to keep it out in some manner, in some way. And that's what they're doing. What we've got to do is, what do they say? Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So we can't bring water, and that's within a certain amount. To stand 300 feet out and give every car coming in a bottle of water. let's begin to get folks to the polls early. There's some common sense things we can do to more or less combat what they're trying to do. So we've got to be smart, we've got to be diligent, but we've got to be patient as well in moving forward to get these folks to the poll.
Now, Commissioner Davis, I'm going to date myself because I know what a poll tax is, but I don't know if all of our viewers do. So I don't know if Larry Johnson knows. So can you?
No, Larry doesn't know. Larry
Larry
doesn't know.
So can you
and I read about it in the history books myself.
See how we know about that and Jim Crow.
See, it's the gray.
So we you know, I think again, education is so important, and knowing our history so that it will not be repeated.
Yeah.
And then to be able to, when we see things, to know this is the same thing. This is what we experienced way back when. They just got a new spin on it. They just put a new label on it, but it's the same thing.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at it in the good light, you know, in a sense, Black men have been eligible to vote right after the Civil War. We have on paper had the right to vote, but we didn't have the opportunity to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we've had it since, 1866. So we've had the right to vote on paper. But when we've got to count bubbles in a bar of soap and things of that, how many marbles are in here?
Yeah.
That is going to keep us from voting. And that's what they're doing here. It's the same. It's just the illusion of their old tricks that they played before.
Yeah, the illusion. Yeah,
Yes.
we're really seeing that, and I think with the Senate race, we're seeing a lot of the illusion that is taking place. So let's talk about this, and I wanted to talk about how we are going to be able to do for our seniors, you know, that are going to have really some challenges. And do you have any suggestions, or are you telling any people, you know, a group in your district on how to actually assist the seniors to get out to vote? And I'll start with you, Commissioner Davis.
Well, you know, I'll be honest, I have not actively began to put a program to get these seniors out. So I'm definitely going to listen to what some of these other folks have said and begin to look forward to going. Like I said, my immediate goal has been to get our Black males out to vote early.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my direct target at this point. Yeah, our seniors going to vote.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to do a whole lot. They are going to turn out like they always have done, and they're going to vote like they always have done.
Right.
It's everyone else that we have to be concerned with.
Right. And what I've done is I've started hitting churches. I went to 2 churches this past Sunday, and we're getting people to start to make a pledge to vote early. And so the pastor got up there, held her sign up. And gave a few minutes before her presentation and told all of the members to fill out the card. And so you can remember, and gave the dates, had the dates on there and everything on where to vote. And so, you know, most of our audience was seniors. And like Commissioner Davis said, the seniors are going. I told them, just create your souls to the polls. You got 2 Sundays. You all get together with some churches after church service. Y'all head over to South DeKalb Mall, which one of the locations to vote is only 10 minutes from the church. Y'all line up and get a convoy, and you all make it happen. I mean, what you have to do is you don't let folks corner you in the market. You know the game. You just learn the little tricks, and then you learn it, and then you move above them. And that's what we do. Now, if you know you're going to have problems on election day, you vote early.
You vote early.
You just vote early. We did it. And then absentee, when they said absentee was not working, we did absentee and we took it over.
Yeah.
It changed the game on that. Then the drop boxes happened. Then we started using drop boxes. And you're going to have nuances throughout this whole plan. But your job is to use your intestinal fortitude to understand that your lives at stake, Your quality of life is at stake. Your neighborhood's at stake. My social security is at stake. I mean, the food, my health care. And that's your motivation right there.
Well, Commissioner Davis made a good point in that the demographic that he is really targeting is the Black male vote. Why do you feel that that is such a disconnect with the voting process for Black men?
Do you want to take that first? One of you want to take it? Or you want me to take that first?
Representative Mitchell.
Representative Mitchell.
Well, I will tell you a couple of things. I believe it's overblown, number one, that we're hearing this notion of Black men not being engaged. I do believe that Black men are get motivated to vote differently than other demographics. But the fact of the matter is, I think that we're going to come out in numbers that will be too big to suppress. We're hearing so much about men, Black men in particular, not voting. I must say that Black women are the number one demographic in this state who are likely to vote. Black women are really going to polls in incredible numbers. But I still blame the Black women for low turnout among Black men. Now, before you shut me down, Minister McMillan, let me tell you why I say that.
I was getting ready to say what?
Man, you're gonna start a fight on this TV program.
Let me tell you why I say that. If Black women would say, you can't call me, you can't come and see me, you can't be with me unless you vote. Show me your voter registration card. You want my telephone number? I'll write it on that little sticker they give you after you voted. If they did that, Black men would vote in record numbers. So
he does have a valid point. He does have a valid point.
And let me add to that. The myth is that we're not. If you look at what happened around George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of those things, and you've seen what happened with the NFL, the players, all of them are males who took a very activist role. And
Correct.
So the myth is that we're not engaged. It's just not true. You got three on here tonight that will tell you we go to the barbershop all the time, and the main topic is politics. That's the main topic of the day, and people want to talk about, and we deal with that. So that's a myth. I think somebody's trying to find a whipping boy or trying to find another issue to add a barrier and trying to put up a wall between Black men and women. And we ain't gonna tolerate that, because when you look at the history of what we've had to do, we've always worked alongside our Black women to make a difference in this society and this family. And we relied on Black women a lot of times to lead. I don't have a problem with a Black woman leading. I mean, my family, we always went to grandma. Granddaddy called grandma. Grandma can fix it. She can do this. She can do that. And we followed her lead. And they understood it was a family unit. So that history just comes down from generation to generation. And so Black men are going to vote. They're going to turn out. There's no saying that they're not going to vote for, in this election. That's just not true. The numbers have gone up every year. Data shows Black men are increasing their voting, and they're getting active. They're very active.
They're extremely active.
So what do you feel? What do you feel is the major concern of the Black male voter?
Economics.
Always
remember, you got to understand. I want people to really hear this. That now the country is fighting inflation. In order for you to fight inflation, you got to keep creating unemployment. Now, in our areas, unemployment, I don't know about in Clayton County, but in DeKalb, in my area, unemployment is 8%. The state of Georgia is 3.5. But when you talk about Black and brown, our unemployment is at least double what they say the numbers are. So if you got to get inflation down, that means our unemployment is going up. And that's not a good sign for us. I don't know where they get these economics and how they deal with it. You can't put pressure on us. I mean, the food prices, the gas prices, we out here doing the labor and out here. So those things impact us from an economic standpoint, because we want to be breadwinners. We want to be leading. We want to be able to do the things that every American wants to do, but we don't want no barriers. If you're talking about cutting jobs, that impacts us.
Yeah.
So those are the things we have to focus on. The pocketbook issues is always going to be about that economy first, the economics on how we deal with it. Because I want to take care of my family. I want to thrive. I want to be able to go out here and live. I want to be able to do some things. I want to go to the ball game. I want to go to the football game. I want to have a barbecue. I want to be able to have extra money in my pocket to do those things. I want to buy something special for my child, and I don't want to be turned around on that. So those are the things that I would tell, the Democrats and the Republicans, you got to talk about with us.
Well, and that's it as well. Just because a black man doesn't say does not mean it's not happening.
Right.
Now you want to hear what's really going on, going to the barbershop. It's like a brother said to me in the barbershop. He said, wait a minute. I was up there a couple weeks ago and he says, wait a minute. You got a commissioner in here getting his haircut. At the same time, the chair across from me was one of the majors in our police department.
Wow.
And the chair next to him was the COO of the county.
Come on now.
And they're sitting back, two of them in there, and they have no qualms. Yeah, man, we've been to prison. How can we? But we still got to work. And we've got to begin to understand that black men are incarcerated at an unfair rate.
I couldn't agree more with both of them. In fact, I don't know about you two, but the number one request that I receive as a public official is, can you help me get a job, or could you help my business get a contract? That is the number one request that I receive. And even, the gangster rapper, this doesn't look like a Tupac Shakur kind of crowd, but the gangster rapper Tupac Shakur himself said, it feels good to pay the rent when the rent is due, which signifies that even he knew the value of economic opportunities.
Putting money in his mama's mailbox.
That's it.
I'm impressed, Commissioner Day.
Don't be.
That's right. That's where we get cream from.
There you go. You got to remember. I mean, granted, and I'll put it like this: we all have unique backgrounds. One thing I said a lot of folks don't know: I went to school with Rodney King and his brother. We went to high school together, and so I know what folks were doing in the neighborhood and what folks were doing in the area.
Right.
But it doesn't matter who you are; you still deserve the opportunity to be successful. One of the things I want to say also with that is, just yesterday, and it was a lot of black businesses there. We gave away $770,000 in small business grants yesterday, and we were at a place called Fusion Radio down in Clayton County here to give away those checks. And those folks are hardworking people. You see folks coming in their work clothes to pick up that money, but they are working hard. You shake somebody's hands and they got oil on them. And, these folks are working hard to make it happen. We can't always listen to the media when they're trying to tell us who we are. I go to the barber. I've been black probably over 20 years now. And I'm probably going to be black the rest of my life. And so you can't tell me what it is to be a black man anymore.
Yeah.
Be a black man in Georgia. Be a black man in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that. Our jobs as elected officials is to show folks the right way to do it and give them every bit of assistance that we can in building the relationship between us three. I mean, I have called Commissioner Johnson and said, hey, man, how do you do this? How can I do this? And you get that. You've got to begin to lean on a state representative like Billy Mitchell and say, can you help me? How do we begin to put forth the correct proposal in the proper way to get help from our people? But we've got to know where we're going. Since we're called leaders, we gotta ask ourselves, where are we going in order to get these folks over?
That's right. That's clear.
I have a question. So I remember when, again, the leadership for our community were, the Jesse Jacksons and Reverend Al Sharpton. I mean, he's still out there, making it happen. So where do you feel like the new leadership on a national level for our people will come from?
Well, I'll start. It's not going to be one person anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's
Okay.
going to be varied. It's going to be intergenerational.
Hmm.
It's going to speak from different levels. There's going to be one economics, one from sports, one from technology, one from healthcare. But the collective is this whole technology and social media combines us all together.
Yes.
And we got to be more collaborative. See, all of these folks on this screen, we're collaborative partners. See, we just don't come together today. We talk periodically throughout because we have some of the same issues and the opportunities in all of our areas, and that's what's going to keep us moving forward. So I mean, what I've done is for me is that I do respect Reverend Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Al Sharpton, and a lot of our leaders that came before me. I don't discount what they said. I go there and I listen and try to learn as much as I can. I'm not one of them new leaders that come out and say, "I got the answer. Everything you did wasn't right." And I'm Monday morning quarterback, and you saying we should have did this and all that. No, you start where you are, and you build on that. We're collaborative leaders now, and we're more about building on the assets of everybody and not just looking at the deficits. So you're going to see a hodgepodge of leaders. I've tried to even raise leaders in our area on people that don't never come to the meetings.
Yeah.
I used to get the ones who always come to the meeting. I've changed that paradigm. Now I went out and found leaders who don't have to come to me to get stuff. They can go straight to those departments and know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. In the past, we're trying to say, well, you got to come through me to get that. No, I don't. This is an empowerment type of process. I think that's what you're going to see: more women leaders, more younger leaders, leader like males are stepping up, like the folks here that I'm proud of. There's leading their communities. It's going to be a diverse group, so you can't put it in a vacuum and say, here's the person that has to lead you. But when that person step up, we are willing to say, okay, we're going to go with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other part of that is I think we've got to accept lifelong learning.
Yes.
In fact, I just had a conversation just yesterday with Eldrin Bell. I call him on a regular just to pick his brain. Right before he died, I had lunch with both of them. On my right sat Eldrin Bell, and on my left sat Herman Cain. Diametrically opposed. But one thing you have to realize, they grew up in the same neighborhood.
Right.
Diametrically opposed. But the thing is, you can learn from a lot of different individuals if you humble yourself and listen.
Right.
And what we have to accept is this: those that make the most decisions make the most mistakes.
Yes.
Those that make no decisions
And the most targeted too. They're the most targeted too.
And they're the most targeted. So the thing is, we've got to begin to become students of lifelong learning and begin to sit at the feet of these folks who have made a lot of mistakes to begin to learn from them. And there's a lot to learn from them as well as our peers.
And let me just say on this notion of leadership, I will tell you that the real leaders are those who stay involved and engaged and informed on what's going on in their community.
Right.
You know, I can tell you, I know the commissioners will tell you this. We all hear frequently, we'll get members of communities that'll come up and say, how come that community over there seems to get everything that they need, and this community over here is underserved? Now, I could give you all kinds of sociological reasons and psychological theories, but the real reason is the well-served community is informed and engaged and involved.
You must have been on a phone call a couple hours ago.
I will tell you, if you could miraculously pick up all the people from the underserved area and put them in the well-served area, and put all the people in the well-served area and put them in the underserved area, guess what would happen virtually overnight? The services would flip, because the people who are used to being informed and engaged and involved will continue to do so. And that is true leadership.
I love it.
I can give you an example. When I first joined the legislature, a little senior citizen lady came up to me about a problem she was having. At that time, I couldn't tell you the procedure that I needed to take to get her issue addressed. I casually mentioned it in the meeting. Today, that is law because this woman was informed and involved and engaged. And
Wow.
that is true leadership.
Involvement. Well, we're going to have final thoughts from each of you with this election coming up. Uh, whatever is on your mind and heart uh, that you would like to say to the people, the one thing that you would like the people to take away tonight. And we're going to start. We're going to start with you, Commissioner Davis,
Okay.
and then we're going to go to Representative Billy Mitchell, and then we're going to end up with Larry Johnson. So, Commissioner Davis, what would you like the people to take away from tonight?
Well, first of all, Mr. McMillan, thank you for having me on
Thank you.
the show. I think this is informative, not only for me, but for the folks in your listening audience. We're in trying times right now, and we've got to begin to put our heart down in a sense and pick up our minds boldly and to say, what is going to do me right? What is going to do my family right? And what is going to do my people right? And we've got to begin to move forward. We've got folks that have exhibited through past tasks via their motives. They've exhibited a certain type of lifestyle with their what they've given us.
Mhm.
And we've got to begin to change that. And we have to change that through our votes. We need to begin to look hard at our Secretary of Labor that's running, that of our Lieutenant Governor that is running, of our governor that is running, and put these folks in place who are thinking of people first, pocket last,
Mhm.
personal pocket. And that's what we have to do. We've got a long way to go here. We have, Commissioner Johnson and I have a strong minority community that we are responsible for creating policy for and creating economic growth. And we need assistance from folks like Representative Billy Mitchell here. And that's what we have to do. We are able to build those relationships and move things forward. So as you go to the polls, and we've got to take somebody to the polls, let's get folks out next week to those polls to vote early, to bring their folks to the polls. Even those which was too late to register, but even if they're not registered, let's get them registered because there could be a runoff and there's going to be an election coming up. So we've got to begin to do everything we can in the next, 26 days to get these folks out to begin to vote and create the kind of heaven we want here in Clayton County, DeKalb County, and in Georgia.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us tonight, Representative Mitchell.
I just want to say to Minister McMillan, thank you so very much for this format, for this forum. I will tell you, our communities oftentimes don't suffer from a lack of opportunities, a lack of resources. Sometimes we just lack information. And for you to have this kind of forum out there is doing our community a great work. I will just say to those out there, you know, those who came before us, our great grandmothers and great grandfathers could not believe that one day there would be a Commissioner Davis, a Commissioner Johnson, or a Billy Mitchell in the legislature. They could not believe that we would have the kind of opportunities that we have if we would only vote. One day we may meet those ancestors, and you want them to be able to say, "Well done.
Yes.
I was jailed to give you those kinds of opportunities. I was beaten to give you those kind of opportunities. And you did something with those kinds of opportunities." And I want to say to those who view this program, don't let them down. Vote like they've never voted before. Vote in numbers that are too big to suppress. Doing it for our ancestors. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Ditto, Minister McMillan. You've done it again. You put together a dynamic panel of folks who are influencers, who are educating the community, who are about getting it done and bringing us together. I just want to leave you with this. Everybody listening to me, you are democracy. You are the government. You are what's going to make this country move to where it needs to go. You have to make sure you're a committee of one and bring somebody to the polls. Early voting starts October 17th through October 30th. You get 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays. We can do it. It's up to you. When somebody tell you that they don't, why should I vote? You say, well, if you don't vote, life's still gonna go on.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well be a part of making things happen in your community. Inflation, gas, healthcare, all of those things impact you. Be a vote to make a difference in your community. And so I'm telling you, just get on out there and take somebody with you. Don't go in your car. You got 3 extra seats. Use those 3 extra seats and take somebody and commit and just make things happen, because this is on us. We can't rely on the people running for governor, U.S. Senate. When it come down to it, they're not going to come to your neighborhood and tell you what to do. You have to be the key. So thank you so much.
Hi again. This has been Community Social Justice Atlanta. I want to thank each of these distinguished gentlemen tonight for being on our panel. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, Representative Mitchell, and Commissioner Davis. You have our support here from Community Social Justice Atlanta. Let us know if there's anything that we can do for you. Again, share this link with someone that has not seen us before. This is information. Your voice matters, your vote matters. Get out and vote. And if you have a problem at the polls, remember there is a number that you can call, 888-730-5816 for voter protection.
Good.
Thank you, and we will see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.